Hello friends, welcome to Code with Kartiki. So now we will start new topic, that is data types in Python. So there are two basic categories of data types in any programming language. So those are the basic, that is primitive data types, and non-primitive data types. So these non-primitive data types are also called as derived data types, right? So why these are called derived data types? Because these are built on top of primitive data types. So primitive are the basic basic data types, and non-primitives are derived or composite data types. In the same way, in Python we have primitive data types and non-primitive data types or derived data types. So in primitive data types we have integer, float. There are other primitive data types are also there. So those are the fundamental data types. And there are non-primitive or derived data types are there. For example, list, tuple. So those are built on primitive data types. So first, primitive data types. Primitive data types are basic data types that are directly supported by the programming language. They are the simplest form of storing data and are used to represent single values. So the primitive data types are basic data types, and in those data types you can store only single value. So for example, integer, float, string. So these are the primitive data types in Python. Primitive data types have a fixed size in memory and are usually directly processed by CPU. They are used to store simple values and have predefined operations that can be performed on them. So whatever the primitive data types are there, so those are having fixed size memory, and they are manipulated by directly manipulated by CPU, and they store simple values. I have to already told you, in primitive data types you can store only single value, and there are predefined operations already built in that programming language. So there are already built in operations on primitive data types in Python. So when you go for application development, so application development is not a simple task, it is very complex task. And in that complex task, it is not like that always you will have only one single data value. No, you will have group of numbers, you can have group of strings, like that you have composite data. So for such data, primitive data types are not sufficient. So at that time you need non-primitive data types. So non-primitive data types are built on top of primitive data types, means it is going to contain primitive data types only. Non-primitive data types are more complex data types that are created using primitive data types only, and other non-primitive data types, means it can contain other non-primitive data types also. Examples in Python: list, tuple, dictionary. And for example, list can contain tuple, tuple can contain list, dictionaries can contain tuple, like that. So these non-primitive data types can contain other non-primitive data types also. Already I have told you, when you go for actual application development you need non-primitive data types. So these are more versatile than primitive data types because they can represent complex structures and allow you to define custom operations that can be performed on the data. They are used to create more sophisticated data structures and objects in programming. So what are these non-primitive data types are there? So those are having proper structure, they contain primitive data types only, and to access that data we have proper functions available in that programming language. Because of that, accessing that data, removing, then adding, so all those operations become very easy. In this way, we got introduced with data types in Python. In coming sessions, we are going to see all these data types in detail. Thanks for watching the video, and if you like the content of my channel, please subscribe and press bell icon to get notification. And if you have any doubt, you can comment below.